Hi, everybody. So I have Crystal here with me today, and Crystal has a degree in biomedical science, and she's my good friend. And we're going to talk about the digestive stuff that's been going on in the collective today. And then also, what are we doing about it? Because everybody, it seems like that I've come in contact with has been affected. So how you doing today, Crystal?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. So this is Crystal's first video that has been just me and her. So just be really kind and awesome to her in the comments, okay? Because this is not the easiest thing to do to get onto YouTube. So what we want to do is talk about the emotional stuff that has contributed to the digestive issues first. Because in Ascension, it's been a rough go. And what are some of those emotional things that you've noticed, Crystal?
Um, I think, well, I was looking up in this book that's all about emotional reasons that things can go wrong with the body. And it's called Metaphysical Anatomy by Yvette Rose. And what she talks about is like a fear of digesting or stomaching current issues and past circumstances in reality, and a stubbornness to accept what's happening or feeling disempowered, which really struck me because I feel like with what humanity is going through, it's a lot to dig into what's been happening outside of like our immediate vision, what's in our lives. Oh, there's all this horrible stuff going on in the world, and we need to know about it so that it can come to the attention of everyone and be stopped.
Mhm.
So I thought that was a really big parallel between digestion and ascension.
Yeah, yeah. And it really affects the nervous system, which affects the digestion and also the liver. So the liver has also been pretty affected for a lot of us. And I think it's because there's hidden anger in there about what's happened. And we haven't come to the conclusion yet that we're going to totally forgive, or there's something that we're holding on to. So for me, I've been holding on to a couple of heavy metals that are buried in the liver and need to be, you know, they need to be, what is that word? Can't
Like
remember. Detoxed from the body. So they need to be detoxed. And so now I'm going to do a certain kind of protocol. And I had my body like scanned. It was really interesting because I've had like the palm of my hand, you know how you have sweat on the palm of your hand, and I had that tested. And this person came up with very similar things to that, but in a much bigger picture. So I was able to see all of the things that are going on with my body. And the biggest thing is the liver, which affects your digestion, which affects everything else. So, really, I would concentrate if you're having a hard time with your digestion, I would work on your emotional stuff. And then, and we're not doctors and we're not claiming to be here, but I would work on your emotional stuff and being willing to just accept what's happened. A lot of us are like, how could they do that? How could that happen? And it happened so that we could learn and come out of the 3D. We could let go of the 3D for good and forgiving that experience that we've had. And that will help your liver. Because I've noticed a lot of people don't have much stomach acid right now. And that's been a big thing. So for me, those are the things that I'm doing is working with my stomach acid, my enzymes, my liver, and basically allowing my body to slowly detox and let go. of all this stuff, but first to work with my emotional stuff. And this stuff's been buried deep, you guys. And because the nervous system is basically upgrading right now, it's pushing all this stuff to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the body in general and how the digestive system works, because you recommended some things to me that really helped.
Well, so from our mouth to the exit is called the alimentary canal, and it's technically outside the body because you can have stuff pass completely through and not enter the internal part of your body. But the process of digestion includes seeing food, smelling food, tasting food, chewing it, mixing it with saliva, which has enzymes, starts to break down carbohydrates. You swallow it, it enters your stomach, it starts to mix with the acid. And for a while, I actually thought like the acid was what digests food, and it does kind of start to break it down, but what it really does is keeps the stomach a sterile environment. So it kills bacteria. It's the hydrochloric acid in your stomach is between a pH of 1 and 3. It's supposed to be. So it kills bacteria that would be in your food. It actually activates pepsinogen into pepsin, which starts to break down proteins.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it leaves your stomach and goes into your small intestine, there's all these other enzymes that start to break down the proteins further, the carbohydrates further, and then the fats also, which is where the liver comes in because bile emulsifies fats so that the enzyme that breaks fats down can actually get to the fat molecules, because otherwise they're just kind of like big blobs.
Mm-hmm.
And those are really important because that's how we absorb most of our vitamins, fat soluble vitamins. And then as your food continues to digest and move through, excuse me, your digestive system, small intestine, the middle part, and the end, and the large intestine, that's where all of the nutrients are absorbed. And then there's all these beneficial bacteria in the later part of the small intestine and mostly the large intestine that actually break down our food on more of a molecular level and transform it into something that our body can actually absorb. And they are actually responsible for creating a lot of synthesizing vitamins that we wouldn't be able to on our own. And so with you, we had talked months ago about probiotics. So if we have too much candida in our body, it kind of, the way I learned about it is the analogy of a parking lot. So imagine your gut flora is in the parking lot and every parking spot is taken up by candida. So you can be taking probiotics and they're like, there's nowhere for us to go. We're just going to leave. So there's another yeast called Saccharomyces boulardii, which is like a cousin to the yeast that they make beer out of. But what it does is it displaces the candida. So it kicks it out and it takes its place for a short amount of time. And then it leaves on its own. Excuse me. And then all these parking spots are open. So now you can take probiotics and they'll actually stay in your gut where they can break down food and synthesize vitamins and do all the other awesome things that they do for us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really huge deal because I think a lot of people take probiotics, but I'm not sure if there's any real benefit if they have like a candida overgrowth or if there's some other problem. So that was a really interesting substance that I became aware of a few years ago.
Yeah. And I definitely took that for, I would say it was a solid month. And they're like, 1 pill a day. I'm taking 2 pills a day. So I'm overloaded, on the Saccharomyces boulardii. And my higher self finally said, okay, now you can start taking probiotics. So now I'm flooding with probiotics so that my, gut flora will be happy again. And also recently I was on a plane. So if you go on a plane, I would say repopulate. So eat lots of yogurt, have some kefir, and get a really good probiotic. So my favorite place to find a probiotic, to be honest, is at the health food store in the refrigerator section. So that's where I would look for them and really flood your body back with the good bacteria. Because on this test that I just recently took, EMFs came up really big. And I couldn't figure out where that was coming from because all of my electronics are protected. But I'd just been on a plane and it was like the second flight in a week and a half. And that definitely has an effect. And also, I was in the middle of killing off all of the candida, which, I don't think I had a whole lot of good beneficial bacteria while I was doing that. So, all that stuff was kind of showing up in this scan. And I think it's important that we really pay attention to all the steps. So, in the past, I've been like, oh, I'll get this and that'll fix it. It'll just be one thing and then I'll fix it and everything will be fine. Actually, no, we need to start with the source of the problem. And that was my inner child kind of bypassing. So for a long time, I've been in protector mode. And in order to carry extra weight, you need to have an imbalance going on in the body. So now I'm fixing the imbalance. And this may take months to be done with, like as far as fixing all the pieces, but it's worth it. And I think what we've done and the way that we've been taught, it's kind of like fast food. Take this pill and everything will be fine. And the amount of pills that I have that are um, centered around supplements that are going to help my body feel better. I mean, a lot of them are just pointless. So, will I use them in the future? Maybe. But the main thing is to work with the liver and the digestive tract and actually digesting your food, which I don't think I've been doing properly for a long time. So I
Yeah,
was
because
really grateful to you, Crystal. Thank you.
yeah, I'm glad it helped. Um, I mean, I can be guilty of this too. Like, it starts with chewing our food properly, breaking it down into small enough pieces that it has a larger surface area to mix with those enzymes and other gastric and digestive juices. Sometimes I eat really fast and I just like swallow halfway through chewing something.
Mhm.
That's an important step. My grandma, before she passed, she had a lot of digestive issues because she didn't have saliva, which, I mean, that's where you start breaking down carbohydrates. I think she had issues with stomach acid, but she would take antacids all the time
Mm.
because she had, I guess, maybe acid reflux, which in hindsight, if you don't have enough stomach acid, and she ate a lot of sugary things, um, I think you actually can not have a sterile environment because the stomach
Right.
acid is not high enough. And bacteria and yeast will start to overgrow in the stomach. And then when you eat carbs, it feeds it. And I think that's actually what causes acid reflux. It's not too much acid, it's not enough acid, but it still burns the esophagus because the esophagus is not meant to have such strong acid in it. And even once the food and it's called chyme when it's food and digestive stuff mixed together, it goes into your small intestine. Your pancreas actually injects, I don't know if that's the right word, bicarbonate into your small intestine so that the acid from your stomach isn't going to eat away at your small intestine. So it's like a very regulated environment every step of the way so that you're not like digesting your organs along with your food.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's so many different enzymes involved, so many different steps, lots of feedback mechanisms and loops and things. Um, and I do want to say about candida, it's not that candida itself is bad. It has a role when our body dies. It's supposed to break it down and turn it into liquid. But there's a lot of things in our life that, so our bodies are normally at a certain energy level when they're alive and healthy, but there's a lot of things in our world that drop our frequency down to a level where candida just maybe their frequency activated and they're like, okay, the body's dying. We need to start doing our job. So if you're eating too much sugar, sugar really lowers frequency, or maybe alcohol, or even just like EMFs, like you're talking about. Like a lot of our technology steals our energy, whereas nature gives us energy. So there's a lot of things that probably lower our body's frequency. And so candida isn't bad. It's just seeing our low frequency as, okay, it's time to start doing our job. And then it starts growing and gets out of hand.
Yeah. And then it talks to us too. It's like, oh, look at that donut over there. It looks really good. I think we need it.
Yeah.
So, candida and parasites, they will talk to you. They will try and take over your brain. Because remember, your brain is a receiver. So, it's going to pick up on the energetics that are going on around you and inside of you. And if you've got an overgrowth or if you've got a parasite going on, your brain's going to hear. It's going to hear that hum of, I need it. I need those Cheerios with tons of sugar, or whatever it is that you're adding sugar to or eating that has a lot of sugar in it. And for me, like, I don't want to have any sugar. So I'm mostly just having monk fruit, and I will eat fruit, which has sugar in it, but it also has fiber, which is really important. And it has structured water, which is also really important.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking about those things about who's really asking for this donut is probably a good idea. And then asking yourself, do I have a candida overgrowth? Is there a parasite present? What should I do about those things? You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think that's important.
Kind of goes back to what you're saying about the order of doing things. So when I first started learning about this, I was like, oh, I'm going to do this and this and this. And nothing would work. Like I used to be a sugar addict. Like there was a time where I went to the store to buy sugar cubes to eat. And thankfully they didn't have any, but I was definitely not asking who wants this.
Yeah.
So I had to I started figuring out the right order, like do a parasite cleanse so that it's not them asking for it. Do a candida cleanse, and then start switching out sugar for things like xylitol gum. I started chewing xylitol gum because it's sweet and it tastes good instead of having something sugary. And it was like a process I had to go through. And then finally, once I had eliminated all those outside voices, I'll call them, it was much easier for me to be the one that says, no, I'm choosing to not indulge in this because it's not good for me. Like I know it's not good for me. And once I know something is not good for me, it's really hard for me to just go against my own inner voice and be like, no, I'm just going to keep eating all these donuts and cake and whatever. So
Yeah, I
very relevant.
totally get it. And some of my excuses were like, oh, well, it's gluten free. I can have it. And usually it's only if I'm going out, but now it's kind of like, well, do I really want that? Is who's asking for that? Do I feel really excited about it and needy that I want it? Or am I just like medium excited? If you're medium excited, if you're not feeling the need for it and you're unable to avoid it, then you're probably more balanced at that point. And it is okay to have that once in a while when you go out. But I wouldn't store too much sugar, like regular cane sugar in the house. I would get rid of it because it really isn't good stuff and it's not processed in a good way. And it's actually more addictive than another white substance that's considered a drug that people put in their nose. So it's 8 times more addictive
Yeah,
than that,
which is
which
crazy.
I was shocked. Yeah, my naturopath told me that years ago, and I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have any of that then.
It has all
And
the minerals are stripped out of it too.
mhm, yeah, so molasses, which is basically coming from, that's all the minerals from the sugar cane. It's actually a beautiful thing to use as a sweetener.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have some of that. I have raw honey and I have palm sugar, which is supposedly even good for people who have blood sugar issues. Like it
Mhm.
supposedly doesn't raise that as much.
Yeah.
There's lots
And
of
monk
options
fruit.
out there.
Yeah. Stevia is really good as well, but you want to make sure it's pure. And then
Mhm.
also, if you're trying to procreate, if you want to have a baby, do not be using stevia because it interrupts that process, which I
Mm,
think is part of what's going on with fertility in the world right now. Because
good
it's in
point.
all kinds of stuff. And people don't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the things that we're saying is that your emotion is what to start with, and really doing forgiveness and really practicing being neutral, talking to your liver, talking to your digestive tract and your nervous system about how it's okay to get well because they have consciousness too. So you can see yourself as a cell in the universe, and you have a universe of cells inside of you. So talk to them and they'll help you get well. But what are some of the things that I've been taking? Do you know? I can bring them up too.
The like supplements?
Yeah. For what would you recommend? And remember, we're not doctors for stomach acid.
Oh, well, in order for your body to create stomach acid, it needs, well, there's a lot of hydrogen in the body already, but it needs chloride, which comes from salt. And some people will say sodium chloride is good, but in reality, like the earth is a body, the oceans and the water is like its blood.
Mhm.
And if you were to take sea salt or Celtic salt, it has the same exact ratio of minerals that we need in our blood. Whereas if you were to just eat table salt, that's sodium and chloride, it's going to actually throw off all those levels of minerals. And honestly, sodium, chloride, potassium, calcium, magnesium, all these as ions in the body are, there's, I don't want to say limitless, but there's thousands of functions for them all over in every single body system. So you need all of them anyways.
Mhm.
Um, so the main source of chloride is from salt, and I would highly recommend Celtic salt or sea salt. That's from like a clean source. So that your body can create that stomach acid in the first place to have that sterile environment to activate mainly pepsin, which is the enzyme that breaks down proteins, because proteins are a very long chain of amino acids, and it's a whole series of steps to break them down from like a protein to a peptide to an amino acid, and it goes through the stomach and the small intestine and all these different areas that there's different substances that do those steps
Mhm.
each step of the way. Um, so salt is really important for that. Um, what else did we talk about?
So you can get hydrochloric acid in a
Mm,
pill if you need it. And you can also get enzymes. So depending on how much your digestion is affected right now, start with what Crystal's saying. And I do that in this all the time. There's potassium, there's sea salt, there's all kinds of stuff in there. There's minerals. Um, but if you're really affected at the moment, then what I'm doing right now is I'm doing this, and then I'm also doing hydrochloric acid and only once a day. So I'm doing this at night. I'm letting my body learn how to digest during the day, and I'm not having any problems. But dinner time, as your digestion slows down, seems to be more critical. And that's when I'm taking enzymes and hydrochloric acid.
Mm.
So I'm actually doing that to just continue to digest properly while I heal. And I'm taking different things for my liver. So milk thistle is really beautiful. Sulforaphane, I think it's called, which
Sulforaphane?
yeah, which comes from broccoli.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good for your liver. So those two things are really helpful. If you feel like you have stones in your gallbladder, then you can also take what's called stone breaker or chancipedra.
Mm-hmm.
So those things are all really good. And just think about, what do I need? Do your own tests, do your own research about this stuff. But the beginning of digestion really we as a collective have been in kind of a pickle with it. And pickle juice is really good. So pickles are good, bitters are good. So I would start too with bitters before you take everything. Start training your body to actually want to digest your food. And another thing that I've been doing is food combining. So I'm separating my proteins from my carbohydrates, and that has really helped. So at night I'll eat protein and and vegetables. So I'll have vegetables and protein. And during the day, I'll either have a carbohydrate meal, like one, and everything is separate. So if I'm going to have bread, I don't have any kind of protein with bread. If I'm going to have yogurt, then I can actually have yogurt with bread. And it has protein in it, but it helps the whole digestive process. And there's a lot of food combining books that are quite old. And it seems like this whole idea was suppressed back in the late 90s, early 2000s, because nobody published about it anymore. And there were all these movie stars that were talking about it and how it helped them. So, food combining is really helpful to your body because the enzymes don't match. So, Crystal can probably talk more about that.
Yeah, I haven't studied Ayurveda, but I've looked into it a lot. It's very interesting to me how it's like this ancient system. They talk a lot about not mixing things like meat and dairy or fruit and dairy. Um, there are like you said, yogurt is fermented, so it's a little bit different than dairy. So you can mix
Mhm.
that with grains and vegetables. But like they say, fruit on its own, do not eat it with anything else. Definitely like melons. Well, let me go back. So in Ayurveda, they consider the digestion to be like a fire. And melons in particular are very wet. They have a lot of water. And so if you imagine putting water on a fire, it's going to be a lot harder for that fire to keep burning. So they say if you're going to eat melon, don't even mix the kinds of melon. Eat it by itself. Eat one melon at a time. Don't even mix them with fruit. Um, Grains you can mix with other like beans and vegetables and meats and nuts and seeds, cheese. Um, there's just if you just look up Ayurvedic food combining, it'll tell you all the things that you can put together. Like grains and nuts are good because they provide all the amino acids your body needs to make a protein. So you wouldn't need to eat protein with that. And going back to the digestive system, so like there's enzymes for breaking down proteins, there's enzymes for breaking down carbohydrates, and there's enzymes for breaking down fats. And they don't necessarily all work the greatest when they're all mixed together.
Mhm.
And traditionally, we haven't really eaten all these different kinds of food at the same time. It's more of a modern concept to have like a sandwich with bread and meat and cheese and all these different things on it that when you combine these different things in your body at the same time, um, because something like protein takes so much longer to break down, if you're eating that with like fruit or milk, which has lots of different sugars in it, it's gonna like, sugars want to ferment, and
Mhm.
meat will actually putrefy in your digestive system, and it creates toxins. And the whole, like the lining of your digestive system is really between the inside of your digestive system and the blood vessels that surround it that absorb the nutrients. It's like one cell thick.
Yeah.
So those toxins are going right into your bloodstream. And we haven't even gotten into stuff like substances that are used in agriculture that might actually destroy that lining. And so everything's leaking in, causing lots of toxins to be in your bloodstream, leading to brain fog and all these other
Mhm.
situations. But yeah, that's basically why, aside from all those agricultural things, that's why you don't want to like combine too many different types of food at the same time. Just to give your body a chance to break things down in a way that's easiest for them. Like if you eat fruit, it's pretty quick to digest fruit. So you can do that first and then wait, and then maybe have something like Honey saying, just a meal with your grains and non-starchy vegetables, and then later do meat and non-starchy vegetables, or
Mhm.
cheese on its own. And who doesn't love a charcuterie board with like meat and cheese and fruit all together and nuts? And turns out none of those things should be eaten together. So our
Mm-mm.
world is a little backwards, but if health is what you're aiming for, it's not outside of the realm of possibilities if you look into this stuff.
Yeah. And I've noticed I'm not as hungry. So I don't really, so I must be getting more nutrients because the hunger would come from not getting enough nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not as hungry. And this is really helping me kind of separate all of the different things. Another thing, too, if you're worried about carbs, get good carbs. Like, and also after they're cooked, refrigerate them, cool them off, and reheat them. And then they're a resistant starch versus like really fast carbohydrate. And they won't affect you in the same way.
Oh, like not releasing as much sugar into your bloodstream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's just these things that we're thinking about. And Crystal's actually creating a PDF that's going to talk about a lot of this stuff and break it down in more specific ways. I'll put it on my website. If you guys want it, you can purchase it there. I think that's really important at this point that we get our digestion kind of going in the right direction because we don't need these toxins in our body. All right, so I had to pause for a second. But so basically, what we're talking about is as the crystalline body shifts, because it was definitely shifted in the wrong direction in the past and also became carbon versus crystalline. So now the body is crystalline, the body is shifting, the body is upgrading. We need to think about some of the things that have happened in the past that were not in our best interests. And the Anunnaki shifted the human body, and that's going to really get broken down in the PDF. But also in the 90s, there were a lot of things going on, and Crystal just talked to me about those. So I'm really excited for her to kind of summarize that for us as we end this video.
Yeah, when you were talking about the celebrities that were discussing food combining and then totally disappeared, it made me think of that same time period where animal fats and products like saturated fats and eggs and whole milk, all that was kind of demonized, and we were replaced with fat-free everything, which like the outer cortex of the brain actually runs on fats. And that's where all your higher level processing and decision making happens, where you can think for yourself and come up with new ideas. And it was replaced with all this fat free, unsaturated fats, which cause a lot of inflammation in the body. And then they introduced a lot of corn syrup into everything as a sweetener, which just kind of feeds the inflammation. And actually, the mammalian brain, which is in kind of like the interior of the brain, that runs on sugar, and that's more interested in comfort and pleasure. So like, don't disrupt me, don't make me make changes. I just want my comfortable life, and keep me
Mhm.
safe and take all my freedoms away. It's fine. Um, but I just thought it was really interesting because in this same book that we've been talking about, the metaphysical anatomy, it talks about how wheat was actually given to slaves hundreds of years ago, and maybe there's a correlation between that quote from Cicero, like, give them bread and circuses and they won't revolt. They'll just be
Mhm.
happy with this entertainment and distraction from life. This book is saying that our bodies associate wheat with those times of slavery. So that could be another layer to um, like the problems that eating meat has caused in people's bodies.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Especially the newer wheat, the really hard and excessively filled with gluten wheat that people are normally eating, especially in the United States and in Canada, it's really hard on your body. So if I'm eating bread, it's spelt spelt, and that is the oldest form of wheat. But I'm now going to go through my subconscious and take any of that idea out of it because it's probably been basically passed down through the collective, which is why bread is probably not the best for us. So
Yeah,
we'll
unfortunately.
have to we'll have to work on that too because bread is beautiful for you if it's been sprouted, if it's made into sourdough. It's actually really important for the body. But if the body thinks that it's doing something subversive or something that's keeping you suppressed, then that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
So, another thing is yeast. Yeast is not the best thing. So, for me, I have spelt bread that is sourdough that has been frozen and then comes back out, and then I eat it. And I usually toast it so that it's warm. So, all those things are going into the bread that I eat. And I don't eat a lot of it, but I'll order it and then stick it in the freezer. And I'll put the link to that below as well, because I don't get the same effect from that bread that I used to get from regular wheat. And I can't eat wheat in the United States or in Canada, but I can sure have it over there in Europe. No problem. So there is differences in the wheat and also what they put on the wheat. So that's really important because I think in America we have a dual issue going on. We have wheat that's been hybridized to make it strong. It has a ton of gluten in it, which really isn't good for the body. And then also what they spray on it is really rough on the body. So organic spelt bread is the way to go, I think.
Yeah, and the stuff they spray on it, it used to be used mid-season to control like weeds and other things around it, but then they realized, oh, we can spray it on at the end and it dries it out and it doesn't turn moldy. So we'll just do that, but then you end up with the grains that have this substance on it instead of the rain washing it away where it may used to have done that, but
Yeah.
it's not doing it anymore. And what you said about yeast, it kind of, to take a sharp right turn, I have this book called The Essene Gospel of Peace, and it's actually it's like a direct translation of the Dead Sea Scrolls and follows Jesus and the Essenes. And I remember part of that, they talk about what to eat at certain times of the year. And like I've heard before that eating local and seasonal is the
Mhm.
best thing to do. And they actually talk about that in this book, like in maybe, I don't know if it's spring or summer, but whenever the grapes are still on the vine and they're sour, you eat the sour grapes. And then later in the year, they kind of become more sweet. So you eat those, or leaving things out in the sun. And the sun is basically what they would use to prepare food. I forget which grain they use, but they would they grind up this grain and mix it with oil and press it into cakes and put it in the sun, and the sun would bake it, and that's what they would eat. They wouldn't have leavening or yeast or these things, and just what you said
Mhm.
kind of reminded me of that. So I thought it was a correlation.
Yeah, I love that. Another thing that popped up while you were talking is seed oils. Seed oils are awful. They're basically one bubble off plastic. So they're plasticizing your body. Your body doesn't know how to break them down. So the oils that I eat are coconut oil, butter, ghee, and lard, basically. And it needs to be unhydrogenated lard, which is also tallow. That's the same
Mhm.
thing, I think. But those are the only kind of oils that I would cook with. And I would use olive oil, and you want to make sure it's really good stuff. You want to buy it from the source. And I don't have a source for that I could probably put in the, I'll look. But it's really important to get good olive oil because a lot of times it's cut with seed oil. The same as avocado oil is cut with seed oil a lot of times. So you have to be really careful where you're getting those two oils. And they don't need to be, avocado oil can be heated, but olive oil, that's your salad dressing oil. That's the oil that stays cold. That's what you dip your bread in and you get all the nutrients out of your bread. All those weird little customs that people do, a lot of them are actually helping them digest or helping more nutrients come into your body.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Is there anything else that we forgot?
I just wanted to say about seed oils. It's really the problem is that they're unsaturated. So, like if you think of a seed, it has a hard exterior, and it's like waterproof, it's oxygen proof. As soon as you crush that and open it, um, so an unsaturated oil is able to oxidize. So when it reacts with oxygen, it exchanges
Granted.
a hydrogen for an oxygen, and through this process, it actually creates free radicals, which are unpaired electrons, and electrons love to be paired up. So as soon as it touches something else, it steals an electron, and then that creates a free radical from what it touched. So it's just this cascade of creating free radicals, and every time it comes into contact with like a tissue, it's going to cause inflammation and damage. So that's really bad. The unsaturated fats like seed oils and things that you're talking about, because you have all that inflammation, and then with all the corn syrup and everything that's in most of our food, that just like feeds into the inflammation. Whereas the saturated fats you're talking about, like butter and lard and tallow and ghee, coconut oil, avocado oil, they don't react with oxygen, so they can be used at higher heats to cook with, and they aren't going to cause damage in the body. I do agree with what you say about olive oil. It should not be heated. It's kind of like in between unsaturated and saturated, but as long as you don't heat it, it's totally fine, and it can be very healthy for the body.
Mhm. Wonderful. Yeah, I love this subject because I think the body is so massively important right now. And we're growing our 5D body basically. The organs are switching over, things are changing, and you really want to have the best body to have the best experience here in this new reality that we're building together. So I'm really excited about this. And um, I'll have all the links below of all the things that we talked about. And I hope that you guys start to feel better and then this helps you because I know that I've had a lot of help along the way in this journey That's probably been going on my entire life. My digestion hasn't been that great. But over the last probably 8 months, it's been really out of whack. And I'm so grateful to have it start to go back the other way. Yeah. So thank you so much, Crystal.
Thank you,
This
honey.
was great. And anyway, we'll talk to you guys soon. And we're sending you so much love.
Bye.
Bye.